Hey, this is John. Welcome back to the channel. Today I would do a video I really wasn't excited about doing, and I thought, why do a video on it then? Well, I figured just an excuse maybe to share my background. Some of you guys care, some of you guys don't. Why the heck am I into this stuff? What got me into it? And while I'm taking this apart, I'll just, shoot some things at you, some history, and hopefully you find it somewhat interesting. Some of you will. Most of you will tune out in about 2 minutes. But let's take this thing apart. It's going up to Waterford next week, and to get the big, huge hack fixed. So, ever since I was a kid, I really loved bicycles. I did. And when I was, 5 years old, 4 years old, I would never share my big wheel with anyone. I would not get off that thing for the life of me. I just loved it, and I rode it around constantly, and I wouldn't share it. I was kind of a jerk, little kid. But I just loved the roll. And then after I got that thing, my parents lost their home. We were broke. So first grade rolls around, a neighbor's father had mercy on me and gave me a purple Schwinn. It was kind of beat up, but I remember him fixing it up for me. I was really, really grateful when I got that bike. I remember my dad was shocked when someone else in the neighborhood gave me a bike. At the time, I lived in Mount Prospect, Illinois. And I rode that around a lot. I really enjoyed the bike. And of course, it got stolen because I was a stupid kid. Then we moved to Arlington Heights and didn't have a bike. Ended up getting a Schwinn Fastback in yellow. It was missing the sissy bar. I think it's pretty. I think it's pretty. But at the time, we lived in an apartment complex. That got stolen as well. And that was it for bicycles until the 4th grade. When 4th grade came around, a neighbor named Paulo Castellano, I remember that name, sold us a apple crate. I was thrilled to death having a Schwinn apple crate, and enjoyed it. Actually rode that around for a while. And I ended up screwing that bike up bad. That bike gets stolen. And I end up getting a Kent Pathfinder. Now, that bike was kind of cool. Believe it or not, it was lugged. I didn't know what that was at the time. And it had collared cranks. And it was geared high. That thing really moved. I really enjoyed it. I actually had a great time riding that bike. And that's when it really just hit me that I'm a bike guy. I really enjoy cycling, and I want to keep doing it. Pretty crazy, guys, huh? That's just anodizing. 0 miles. Lots of fun. So whenever I had a chance, I ride my bike. I really enjoyed it. And I think I had that bike for quite a long time. Then I moved to Streamwood, Illinois for 7th and 8th grade on through sophomore year. And that's when I really got into it. I actually had a Huffy 3-speed that I put downturn bars on because I was broke. And that was my quote-unquote, sport bike. So I was kind of a strange bird back then. I would actually ditch school just to ride my bike. Maybe it was an omen. I ended up working in a bike shop as an adult. So yeah, that was a lot of fun. And then, for my 14th birthday, or graduating 9th grade, believe it or not, junior high in 9th grade, my mom bought me a Schwinn World Sport, a 1980 Schwinn World Sport in maroon, collared cranks. Did it have a collared crank? Yeah, it did actually. Steel collared crank, steel wheels, but I didn't care. It was a Schwinn. I could not have been more thrilled. I was excited. Oh, look at that. All right. So whether it's needed or not, I always put this bolt through. That saved my knuckles 1,000 times. So we're doing it again. I don't know how tight this thing is, but we're gonna find out. Let me get some position here. Behind. Here we go. Pretty easy. Well, not too easy, but acceptable. Easy enough. feeling like I was a big boy having a Schwinn World Sport, I bought the rear rack for it. Then I bought saddlebags. And I actually ended up buying the first Cat-Eye Velo computer that came out. And I was thrilled for that. I mean, it was totally cool. And then the guy I bought the bike from when I turned 15 offered me a job. So guys, I was totally jacked. Here I am, 15 years old. I get to quit the restaurant I've been working at. I worked restaurants since I was 12. And working under the table at a mob-owned restaurant in Elgin, Illinois. So then, now I'm working at a bike shop and instantly upgrade to a Schwinn Latour. So thrilled. Had it 6 months, then Schwinn put Chrome Voyagers on sale at $200. I didn't have the money, but of course my boss lent it to me. So man, with that Chrome Voyager, I thought I was the man. Let's see, I haven't done this in a while. You lift that, and then there you go, comes off that way. Oh boy, I'm not excited about taking this apart. But I got to get this brake off, so I guess we're doing it. It's a 3.5 millimeter hex. I have a 9/64. Ready? Fits perfect. But how do you get this thing off? I guess I got to hold. Oh, there's flats here. So that Chrome Voyager was awesome. I pimped it out, made it look pretty with some chrome spokes. And then my boss had some faith in me. Had confidence in me. So he sent me to Schwinn Service School. Man, was I thrilled. He actually, trusted me enough to put some money into, invest some money into me. It was $65 at the time, but, I grew up in a pretty needy household to a certain extent. And I was just thrilled that someone was investing in me. And so at 16 years old, I went to Schwinn Service School. I learned from Gary. If you guys remember Gary, he was, if you were a part of Schwinn at all, you knew who he was. One of their last trainers before they closed down the Schwinn plant in '83. And I did this in 1983 in Elk Grove, Illinois. Here we go. Man, these brakes are a pain in the butt. Why are they worth so much money? So the store I was working at was called Action Cyclery. It was in Streamwood, Illinois. It was in a strip mall. It really wasn't anything special. But we kind of made a niche for ourselves. We were selling some fairly decent high-end bikes. We started carrying Trek and Cannondale, Miata. And, if you look at my collection, you might see what it's influenced by. But I really enjoyed building those bikes. I was thrilled, especially when that first Trek order came in. I thought we were the bomb. And we ended up being the largest Cannondale dealer in the Midwest, I think for the first 2 years. So I actually had a little bit of affinity for Cannondale. Well, being a Cannondale dealer had other benefits. The one was, one of the most popular models, the SR500 and SR400, had defective wheels. They were built with these really crappy spokes. And we probably sold about 200 of those models, maybe 170, who knows, somewhere in that range. And I had to relace every single wheel. And at that point, I became a wheel building expert. And I still use those skills today. I'm pretty excited about that. So who would have thought that a mistake by Cannondale would have constituted me really becoming a decent wheel builder, just out of the sheer volume that I was doing. Honestly, I did not get into the vintage bikes then. I was working on them all. And, I guess you could say I was working on current bikes that became vintage. But, that's where I really started getting excited. Like a Colnago would come through the door, and I'd just be thrilled to death that I got to work on a Colnago. And I got to be really good at it. We built, and we also sold some high-end bikes, so I was comfortable with it. There we go. Now, after I worked for Action Cyclery, I got a job with a company called Wisconsin Cycle Supply. Wisconsin Cycle Supply was a regional distributor for GT bicycles. And I think it's 1995, correct me if I'm wrong, they were purchased by Right Way Products. And Right Way Products was actually GT bicycles themselves. That's what they call themselves. So now I went from working for a small local distributor to working for the second largest bike company in the country, I'm sorry, one of the largest bike companies. And then they ended up being bought out by Schwinn. And then we were equivalent to Trek as the largest bike company together. And that was the beginning of the end for me. There's a rep at Schwinn that didn't like me. Hi, Terry. And wasn't fun. And I heard that word. He was trying to get me fired. I might be wrong. And if he's listening to this, I'm sorry if I'm misconstruing the story. But I was let go. And they hired an old Schwinn rep named Rich Krieger, who I really, really admire. I liked him a lot. Great guy. If anyone got my job, I wanted it to be him. And Rich Krieger did okay, but according to my old sales manager who got a hold of me later, said sales went down significantly. And I don't know if it was necessarily Rich's fault. A lot of stuff was going on with Schwinn GT at the time. Their whole distribution network was changing. You had two reps going around selling the same product. That wasn't a good thing. Now, if you want something to really steal your love for the bicycle, work for a bicycle company. It just, bicycles became units. And of course, at this time, I'm starting to have a family and kind of got out of cycling. So I started getting back into cycling around 2011. Whee! My daughter got a job at a local shop. It used to be one of my clients. And I did rag ride in 2011, which is kind of cool. And then in 2013, a friend of mine named JP Morgan, he used to be the inside sales rep at Schwinn, sales manager at Schwinn, actually. Also, he worked for Harbor Distributors, Fuji Bikes, Univega, and he was a local guy in Streamwood. That's how I met him. He calls me up and says, hey, there's a woman who has a barn full of bike stuff. Now, if you go to bikeforums.net, look at JJ Habs, you'll see my earliest posts and you'll see the collection there. And that was the cool thing about bike forums. I found out I wasn't the only person that loved these old bikes. And I started posting them with enthusiasm. People got excited about them. And this barn find had the chrome auctioner I showed you. It had a bunch of other bikes, parts, old vintage parts. I didn't even know. A Joy 543 derailleur by Simplex. Got $1,000 for that derailleur. Well, I ended up selling a bunch of stuff for about $7,000. Still had a lot left over. Felt so bad. The woman that sold me this stuff, I only gave her $1,000 for it. Well, there's something in the Bible about ripping off widows and orphans. So I actually called her, and then she goes, hey, I got another bike for you to pick up. There's a Varsity 8-speed. What a cool bike. I'm like, yeah, I got more money for you. She goes, what for? I said, I didn't know what this stuff was worth. I had 3 derailleurs that were worth $2,000 total for these 3 derailleurs. And there's can't be hubs and boxes and all kinds of cool stuff. She invites me out to get this bike. She wouldn't take a dime. She goes, thank you for being honest. She goes, I wouldn't know better anyway. And honestly, my husband left me in great shape. I guess a lot of insurance and property and such. And she let it go. She goes, don't worry about it. And I tried to give her extra money. She wouldn't take it. So that's how my collection started. I had a couple bikes at the time. I had my 71 Schwinn Super Sport. I had my 73 Orange World Voyager at the time. I had a red Paramount that was a 72 with 77 decals on it. And I rode rag ride that in 05. And I had that, I bought it from Hillside Cyclery for $200 when I was a rep. So that was kind of cool. So now I got all this stuff, a few extra fonts, even though I didn't have the money for all this at the time. And I started growing a collection. Well, the rest is history. Look at this mess. So anyways, if you find out I have a passion for certain brands or certain things, you kind of know my history a little bit. I might answer a few questions. And I think the sickness that I have is derived from the fact that I really could never buy a new bike. Our parents never had the money until I was 14. Even then, that was a stretch. When we were 17, we lost that home. So yeah, tough goings there, right? So that's the reason for my sickness. Thanks for following along with this. It's ready to go to Waterford for Richard Schwinn to paint this baby up. Thanks for taking the time.